Okay, so let me start talking. Why are we there? So I have a video coming out next week on exactly this. It's called the Epstein War. The video is called the Epstein War because it really is a war, as we know, that has been planned by the Epstein class. Okay, but okay, why are we there? And what do you think about the war? Okay, we don't need this war. This war is ridiculous. It's stupid. This war is, there's literally absolutely no reason for this war other than only one thing, and one thing only: to further American empire. Okay, this war is a war that the United States has been planning for over 20 years, and it's a war in which it's basically a war that the United States is waging against global multipolarity. Okay, it's not a war against Iran. It's a war against global multipolarity. What does that mean? Multipolarity is a world in which there are equal powers that kind of maintain peace because of the fact that everybody has equal strength. So, you know, like the Cold War. During the Cold War was a very multipolar moment where the Soviet Union and the United States were like enemies with each other, right? But, I mean, it was kind of systemic. It wasn't really competitive. The Soviet Union really wouldn't have a chance to win in the end. It wasn't going to. But I mean, it was some formidable power that kept American expansionism under check. But as soon as the Soviet Union collapsed, United States saw the opportunity to make a unipolar moment come into fruition, and for the United States to become a brutal empire that did nothing good, invaded countries, toppled governments, you know, to maintain its stranglehold, maintain hegemony, maintain what's called U.S. primacy, you know, primacy, whatever you want to call it, to become a premier power of the world. Now, with the rise of Russia, China, you know, China's become a global powerhouse, you know, economic powerhouse, a military powerhouse, a technological powerhouse, you know. With the rise of China, which is doing things very differently than what the United States does, which is just bombing people rampantly, U.S. realizes that this is a very big moment. They have to destabilize Iran. They have to destroy Iran because Iran is one of the major allies of China. And so toppling Iran and toppling Russia are the two main steps to lead to the further confrontation down the line, whether economic or military, against China. Okay, so the United States is seeking in any way possible to bankrupt and collapse or control China, whether economic warfare or whether real warfare. And that's why they're really working on a naval blockade in the South China Sea to contain China. Now, in regards to Iran, they did miscalculate about how difficult Iran would be. So they definitely underestimated Iran greatly. And yeah, like they had their plans on what they wanted to do. I'm going to share an article, a paper called The Path to Persia. I've shared this article several times on my channel in different videos and shorts. But The Path to Persia, it's called Which Path to Persia. It lays out a multi-tiered plan, a 12-step plan, like 12 different options. 9 different options on how to deal with Iran. Those options included regime change, internal revolution, you know, coup d'etat, assassinations of leaders, economic warfare, like through sanctions, military action, like having Israel attack Iran and take all the blame, and then also a joint strike with Israel and the United States together, right? And we've seen literally every one of these things have taken place over the years. But when a document is published in 2009 that lays out all the steps, and all those steps actually happen and according to what the document laid out, you can be sure, you can be absolutely certain this is not a war for Israel. Okay, it's not a war for Israel. This is a war for the United States and its allies. Yeah, Israel is an ally of the United States. Israel is a proxy, is a vassal of the United States empire. So Israel is being used as a battering ram against Iran. But because of the fact that Israel cannot do it alone, as we saw clearly in the 12-day war, the United States has had to step in. And that's the final step. That's literally the final step to taking over Iran, is for the United States to step in. I mean, nothing is more extreme than having the most brutal military power on the entire planet coming down on you, right? So now you guys want me to get into the details of the war? I can do that. You know, I can go to the details. That's the point of this video. I want to go into the details of the war, okay? So, as we all know, February 28th on Saturday, the United States and Israel struck Iran, bombing, I think it was 500 sites. They used 500 aircraft to strike 1,000 targets in the first day. A massive, massive military escalation, right? Killing the supreme leader in his home, murdering him and his family. They murdered him, his daughter, his grandchildren, his wife, his daughter-in-law, you know. So it was brutal, you know. They killed him, and then they bombed that school, which they claimed was like a IRGC compound, which it wasn't. It was a school of girls. It was a girls' school. You know, they killed 175 little girls. So right off the bat, it's a genocidal war. It's a war that's intended to destroy and collapse Iranian society. Okay, it's a genocidal war. Now, no, we're not. Look, we're not Israel. We are not Israel's lapdog, and I have tremendous amount of evidence to show you that that's not the case. Now, Israel is for sure a very privileged and enjoys an extremely privileged and special place among all the relationships the United States has. I mean, Israel has a much more, I would say, privileged position than like Ukraine, but they're still proxies of the United States. Okay, now. In war, it's not murder if it's military personnel. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and the thing is, like, this war really shows the United States empire, the military is breaking, man. It's a very overextended empire. We don't have the amount of troops that are like in shape and really ready, military ready, peak form to conduct military operations. It's an overextended empire. The dollar is in trouble. Our allies are kind of like, you know, the allies in the Middle East, especially during this war, they're mad at us. I'm gonna explain to you exactly why. But no, I mean, Israel does not own the United States. Okay, it does not own the United States. I mean, I can talk a lot about that, but I'm gonna save that for my video. I'm posting a video this week or next week about what I call the Epstein War. It's the Epstein War. The Epstein class is not Israel, guys. The Epstein class is the global cabal of billionaire, pedophile, rapist, murdering sadists who control our planet, right? Who control the Western powers, at least, you know. But to go back to the war, what Iran has as an advantage. So Israel and the United States enjoy tremendous air power, air superiority. Like no country on the planet has as much air superiority as the United States, and especially as vassal state of Israel, the two of them enjoy air superiority, air dominance for the most part over Iran. They have way better, more destructive weaponry. Of course, they got more ships, they got more guns, they got more planes, they got better bombs, all that. Sure, they have a more powerful military, without a doubt. What Iran has is positional advantage. It has geostrategic advantage because they're fighting on their home turf. Okay, they're defending their land, which they're much more accustomed to and familiar with than Israel and the United States. Iran has some of the best ballistic hypersonic missiles in the entire world. Probably even better than the United States, probably better than China. As we've seen, their missiles are incredibly sophisticated, incredibly accurate. They're incredibly fast, the fastest missiles in the world. They go Mach 10, you know, 10. They have a very sophisticated, incredible drone production program. It's all domestic. It's all indigenous, you know. Most of the stuff that developed is domestic, which is incredible because it shows that Iranian society, man, we're educated people. We have some of the best engineers in the world. Tehran University produces some of the best engineers in the world. My father graduated from Tehran University way back in the day. He was in a class of 2000. He graduated like top 100 in his class. He was a smart guy. But it shows Iranian society is very keen on education and science and the arts, okay? And it shines through in this case. Like people say, oh, you know, the Islamic Republic is a bunch of repressive, backwards, you know, fundamentalist idiots who are just religious fanatics. Okay, if that's the case, if they're so backwards and if they're so primitive, then how come they have such an incredible military program? How do they have such a robust defense system? How come they have such an incredible drone and missile program? How come? Because, I mean, they're doing something right. And a friend of mine, she was talking to me last night, and she explained to me how Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, whose name is Ali Khamenei, who the United States murdered, you know, and Israel murdered last week, he had a brilliant vision. I mean, through many lectures, and he was a unifier. He brought the countries together and unified the Shia world with Iran. So he was a unifier. He brought people together. He gave a lot of good lectures, and he advised the military. Him and his team advised the military on how to deal with the United States. So let me explain to you what happened. Back in 2003, when the United States invaded Iraq, Iran knew back then, okay, we got to get ready because the U.S. is going to invade us probably as well. And in 2005, when Dick Cheney said, hey, we should attack Iran. We got to go with the plan and attack Iran right now. This is the best time to attack Iran. He tried to get it through. It didn't happen. But just the fact that he threatened to invade Iran, Iran knew back then they must quickly develop a defense program, some kind of a plan on how to deal with United States military aggression. Now, Khamenei did that, okay? Him and his team did that. They developed a very robust plan, and they basically knew that, like, okay, the United States is going to have incredible military firepower. They're going to be able to bomb the crap out of us. There's nothing that we can do to stop that. All we can do is develop anti-air defense systems, get some from Russia, but it's not going to do enough to deter U.S. aerial strikes. But we have a big land, we have a big country, and they spent decades developing underground cities. Literally, they have hundreds of underground missile and drone cities with massive factories that produce these things. And so because they have that capacity, they can produce missiles and drones, some of the best in the world, without interruption, okay? In this war, the United States has not been able to find and destroy too many missile launchers, okay? Because, okay, it's good to have a bunch of missiles, but you need to have a delivery mechanism on how to launch the missiles. And so the U.S. and Israel are trying to find the missile launchers and destroy them. So Iran cannot launch any more missiles, but they're having a big problem finding those missile launchers. They can't find them that easily because they're hidden, they're scattered all over the country, and they're hidden. And like I said, they have very deep underground cities, okay? So that's one aspect, which plays into asymmetrical warfare, okay? So like, when you know your opponent is much stronger than you, when you know they're much more powerful than you, you have to resort to different tactics to win. And that's where asymmetrical warfare comes in. What is asymmetrical warfare? Asymmetrical warfare is when you know your opponent is much more powerful than you. However, you have certain leverage points you can use to find weaknesses in your opponent's armor to exploit to give yourself an advantage. So they don't have as much firepower as the United States, but what they do have is geostrategic advantage. They have been able to close the Strait of Hormuz because the Strait of Hormuz is part of it. A big part of it is Iranian territory. So the South Sea of Iran, they've been able to close the Strait of Hormuz to basically engage economic warfare against the U.S. War machine, to collapse markets, to hurt U.S. allies in the region. So they've been able to do that. That's one portion of asymmetrical warfare. Another portion is producing cheap Shahed drones. Cheap drones. The Shahed drones cost about $20,000 to $30,000 to make, but even if 100 of those drones are flying towards Tel Aviv or flying towards, I don't know, Bahrain, and 99 of them get shot down, but one of them makes contact, that $20,000 drone could destroy a piece of equipment that's worth $10 million. So that's another aspect of asymmetrical warfare, using very cheap technology that may seem primitive, but brings you tremendous return on investment, okay? And that's what's happening even with their missile program, okay? Their missiles and their drones cost a lot less than U.S. interceptors and U.S. missiles, and that is why they're depleting. They're not only depleting the U.S. defense systems and the Israeli defense systems, but they're also extracting a tremendous economic cost on the United States, because the U.S. interceptors are very hard to make. I heard last time they can only make a couple hundred a month. You know, they take a long time to make, whereas Iran can make thousands of missiles and drones per month. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay, close the Strait of Hormuz, which can give Iran a big leverage point for negotiations to hurt. You know, because 20% of all oil shipments, 20% of the world's trade goes through the Strait of Hormuz. You know, so that's an incredibly important economic leverage point that Iran's using. And they're basically saying that we're going to allow oil to go through, oil cargo to go through the Strait of Hormuz to China and Russia. We're going to allow it to go to China and Russia, but not to the United States or their allies. And it said any country that wants to go through the Strait of Hormuz, if they want to have access to go through it, they have to kick out all the U.S. embassies out of their country, and they have to remove U.S. military bases from their country, so that this way Iran knows for sure that they're not siding with the United States to allow the U.S. and Israel to operate, to gain intelligence, to launch strikes, and all that kind of stuff, to wage war basically against Iran from their location. So that's another thing. A third thing is the fact that Iran, because it knows it cannot strike the United States, the missiles don't have as much range, has focused on regional war, attacking U.S.'s allies like Bahrain, UAE, Dubai, those countries, attacking the U.S. military bases on those countries, attacking U.S. radar. Like, there was a $1.2 billion radar that was destroyed on the very first day of the war that Iran destroyed. And Iran's destroying more of these radars. Why? Because it knows that when you knock out these radars, at the same time you're depleting U.S. interceptor stockpiles, well, guess what? There's going to come a time when Israel and the United States are going to be blind. They're not going to see, they're not going to have enough warning to get ready from when missiles are coming, one. And two, they just don't have enough interceptors. They don't have enough interceptors. They don't have enough capacity to intercept those missiles that are raining down on Tel Aviv. And I don't know if you guys are paying attention, but Tel Aviv is getting battered. Tel Aviv is getting hammered, man. It's getting destroyed right now. Because like I said, Iran is doing, it's called saturation, right? They're trying to oversaturate the defense systems, Israel's Iron Dome, the David Sling, and the THAAD missile systems that the United States pretty much placed for them. That's why the U.S. is literally pulling THAAD defense systems from South Korea and repositioning them to Tel Aviv. They're pulling stuff from Ukraine and bringing it over here, bringing it to Israel to defend Israel. So it shows that Israel's in a lot of trouble. The U.S. is in a lot of trouble because they're not able to. You can bomb and kill as many civilians as you want. You can bomb hospitals, schools. You can bomb mosques. You can bomb Iran as much as you want. It's not going to turn the people against the regime. In order for the United States to win this war, they have to land ground troops on Iran. And that is a massive disaster. If the U.S. ever decides to do that, it's going to be their death knell. It's going to be their death. It's going to be absolute catastrophe, a disaster. Many Americans will die, and the U.S. does not have the capacity. It does not have the economic ability these days to wage this kind of a war. It's going to be very costly for them. However, like I said, the empire is desperate, man. We're led by psychopathic sociopaths who are Epstein class, pedophiles, murderers. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care about their own population. They don't care. They rape children on home territory, and they kill children on a foreign territory. So that's just the way it is, man. But like I said before, this war is being waged to weaken China. Okay, it's all about China. China is the ultimate goal. So I would argue the longer Iran fights back, the longer Iran survives, the more Iran hurts the United States, the more Iran damages Israel, the better it is for China and the better it is for the world, because the last thing anybody should want is for a genocidal, murderous, imperial war machine like the US to dominate the world. We don't want that. We need a world in which more sane, rational actors like China come to the forefront. They're trying to develop relations properly through economic development, infrastructure development, energy development. China's the leader in the world in renewable energy. So, and by the way, this is the reason why this war was waged. You might think it's really dumb to wage this war, but when you look at the bigger picture, when you see that China's rapidly developing renewable energy, is getting off of fossil fuels very rapidly, the U.S. knows that it has a very limited amount of window to attack Iran, to weaken China, to create a blockade, to basically restrict energy exports to China, okay? So they know they have a limited amount of time, because one day in the future, China will not need oil from Iran. China will have enough renewable infrastructure to sustain themselves. And that's going to be, that is the ultimate nightmare for the United States. They don't want a liberated, independent, strong China. They don't want that. They want China to be dependent on the United States, or to be a slave of the United States, or to be destroyed, So let me answer a couple questions, guys, okay, before I continue my presentation. Let me answer, because a lot of comments in the chat. So, okay. So, move back, please. We don't want you. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm a U.S. citizen and an Iranian citizen. Thank you. Brother, maybe it's not best. Okay. Iran is having a big problem finding their ships. Yeah, their ships are not that important, guys. Naval power and U.S. naval power and air power was never a priority for Iran. Iran knew that it would never have a chance in naval warfare or aerial warfare against the United States. They have very tiny boats that are flying, that are moving around the Strait of Hormuz and laying mines down. And I mean, you can shoot as many ships as you want. You can shoot boats down. You can shoot ships as much as you want. It does not stop the missiles from hitting ships. And I saw yesterday a ship from Thailand, a Thai ship was struck by a missile and damaged severely for trying to pass through the strait. So, you know, well, they're telling the world, listen, if you want this to end, if you want the Strait of Hormuz to be opened up, we have strict demands. They're not asking for a ceasefire. See, look, Iran's not like, you know, Iran's not a weak country, and Iran's doing at least decent when they are not asking for a ceasefire. They're asking for negotiations and specific demands to be met. What are those demands? They're demanding for the United States military bases to be packed up and leave. They don't want U.S. military bases to be circling Iran. They want the sanctions to be removed. They want a formal apology from Donald Trump for killing the supreme leader. So they're making very strict, strong demands. And they're saying if the United States does not meet these demands, they will continue blocking the Strait of Hormuz. They'll continue raining missiles down on Israel, and they'll continue to hit U.S. military bases. And eventually, they're warning they will start hitting energy infrastructure of the Gulf Arab states. And that will be a massive escalation. But I mean, look, the U.S. and Israel have struck 30-something oil refineries to the north and south of Tehran, which have caused, I mean, devastation beyond picture. Ecological devastation, civil infrastructure devastation. I mean, the pollution, the acid rain is destroying the city of Tehran. It's absolutely horrific what's happening to a population of 10 million people. So this is like literally state-sponsored terrorism, what the U.S. is doing. It's called target depletion. They're basically run out of targets, the U.S. and Israel, so they're just striking civilian infrastructure because they can't find any more legitimate IRGC targets, so they're striking civilian infrastructure now. That's why they're doing that, okay? Let me answer some questions before I continue. Okay. Did you see how Iran was using painted? Yeah, they were doing that too. Yes, it's very clever what they're doing. Like I said, that's another aspect of asymmetrical warfare. So using cheap drones that cost them nothing to strike very expensive targets, using cheap missiles and drones to oversaturate defense systems, to deplete the anti-air missiles, and then using like 3D printed images, 3D images and paintings of helicopters and airplanes to give to trick U.S. military to bomb those paintings. Literally, like, they're just images on the mountainsides or on the desert, and they're dropping very expensive payloads of weapons and bombs on paintings that, you know, these artists created. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. That's actually really clever what Iran's doing when it comes to that. We already have cooking gas shortage, bro. Where are you at that you have cooking gas shortage? Iran has been decimated so far. I know you don't want to recognize that, but it's true. When did I say it hasn't been? I mean, Iran's being devastated. I'm from Iran. I have family in Iran. They're telling me how absolutely horrific it is what the U.S. is doing. Of course, Iran's being bombed horribly. But like I said, what is the United States goal? What's the U.S. and Israel's goal for Iran? Do you guys know that? What's the goal in this war? Do you know what the goal is in this war? What's the goal of the United States in this war? And Israel? What's their goal? Somebody in the comments, leave me a message. Let me know what you think it is. What do you have against war criminals? China found its own oil. Yeah, China does have its own oil, but China still trades. It depends on oil imports, okay, from other countries. It still depends on that, okay? It needs that. It's not fully independent yet. It's getting there slowly, okay? Why do I hate the Shah? The Shah was an oppressive monarch who was extremely brutal, and I mean, brutalized people in my own family. And he was a U.S. puppet. He was a Western puppet who was selling U.S. oil, Iranian oil for very cheap. So even though I don't support the current regime in Iran, I'm not a supporter of the monarchy either. I'm a supporter of democracy for Iran. Iran needs to have the people get together and vote on what kind of system, what kind of leadership they want to have. Okay, Iran should not be governed by Western puppets. The Shah is a Western puppet, and by the way, I have new numbers and details on the Shah's regime. Women's literacy was abysmal. The poor people's literacy was abysmal during his reign. When the Islamic Republic came in, when the new regime came in, the Islamic Republic of Iran, literacy exploded. In the poor areas, they had all kinds of anti-poverty programs that boosted the literacy and education rate of the country tremendously, especially women. Women's literacy is much higher under the current regime than the regime of the Shah. And more women graduate college. Some of the highest percentage of STEM scientists are Iranian women, you know? So that's why I'm against the Shah of Iran, okay? Let me answer a few more questions, and then I'm gonna continue my presentation, guys. Let me see what else you guys ask. The puppet. Iran is no position to demand anything. Okay, thank you so much. Israel won't allow footage of the yeah, of course, Israel's not allowed. I mean, Israel is, first of all, the only democracy in the Middle East, right? The only democracy. Iran's literally allowing CNN to go on Iranian soil to document what's happening. But Israel will not show any footage of what's happening in Tel Aviv because they know they're getting hammered, man. They don't want the world to know that they're getting hammered. And by the way, reports have come out. I'm not sure if it's true or not. Iran's claiming that they killed Netanyahu. Iran's claiming they killed Netanyahu and his brother. I don't know if it's true or not. You guys let me know, but I guess time will tell on that one. But yeah, I mean, look, man, Iran has some of the most powerful missile program in the entire world. Their drone program is incredible. They gave so many drones to Russia to wage war against Ukraine. So they know what they're doing. Yeah, the country's being pounded mercilessly. But, you know, the United States and Israel, their goal is regime collapse. It's not regime change, it's regime collapse. They want to collapse the regime. They want a failed state. Israel wants a failed state. But the only way you can get a failed state and destroy the collapse of the regime is to create civil war, is to destroy the country from within. And how do you do that? You need ground troops for that. You cannot bomb the country from the air and expect the regime to change. No, you can never do that. History has shown us, okay? Aerial warfare campaigns never work. You need boots on the ground, and boots on the ground will be the death of the U.S. empire. If the United States decides to land boots on the ground in Iran, very inhospitable terrain. First of all, when the U.S. landed troops in Iraq, they landed troops on airports, on helicarriers, okay? I'm sorry, on actual military bases that they're welcoming them, okay? They had the country under control before they even landed troops. When you're trying to land troops in Iran, hospitable terrain, I mean, very well defended, a country that's much bigger than Iraq, 90 million people, a very well-trained army. I mean, it's not gonna look pretty, man. It's not. Americans are very privileged. They're used to bombing people from the sky. They're not really used to, you know, this kind of a war anymore, you know? We're not ready for that. And by the way, for those of you who are like thinking that I'm a propagandist, I'm stating facts, guys, okay? The U.S. has already suffered the biggest defeat since Vietnam and since Pearl Harbor. Just on the fact that so much of their incredibly expensive and irreplaceable military technology, like the radar stations, okay, have been struck and destroyed. The radar towers, the military bases, the CIA bases in the area have been destroyed, okay? This is incredibly difficult to replace. And also the trust between the US and the Gulf Arab states, those very corrupt, disgusting Gulf Arab states that are basically complicit in genocide. Many of them have already helped commit genocide in Sudan. You know, the RSF, the Rapid Deployment Forces in Sudan were funded by the UAE, okay? So these are very criminal, disgusting, Israel-loving regimes that hate Iran. They want to see Iran be destroyed, but when they see Iran hit their base, hit U.S. military bases, and when they see Iran attack them, and the U.S. is not protecting them, they're gonna have an issue. They're gonna be like, okay, you know what? You guys promised they're gonna be insurance for us, but where is all that insurance? Why are you not protecting us? You know, why are you protecting Israel? You know, so the U.S.'s goal is regime collapse, failed state, Iran's goal is to kick the United States out of the Middle East, destroy all the bases, restructure and change the status quo of the Middle East. They want to have the Gulf Arab states work together with Palestine and with Lebanon and with Syria and Iraq and Iran to work together to create a strong Middle East that repels Western imperialism, okay? So that's number two. Kick the United States out of the Middle East, change the status quo regarding Iran, lift the sanctions, and also obviously batter Israel. Like, hand Israel a resounding defeat, because Israel is a satellite of the U.S. empire, okay? Israel is a proxy of the U.S. empire, so if Israel suffers a horrible defeat, that is an incredible goal to be achieved, okay? Okay, let me continue reading the comments, guys. And I apologize if I'm a little off. I'm driving, guys, as you can tell, but I want to take my time out to answer you guys and talk to you, because I respect you guys, okay? Okay, let's see what else you guys said. This country is going down the drain. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, because we spent all our money on war. Reset the password wrong by the leaders of Iran, whatever. Keep weapons out of toddler hands. Yeah, keep weapons out of the hands of a pedophile, sadist, Donald Trump. To keep Iran from having a nuclear bomb. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, nuclear bomb. Even when your leader Trump said that their goal is not that at all. Their goal is regime collapse. They don't care about the whole nuclear issue. Was the biggest excuse to wage war in Iran for 20 years. Okay, economic 30 years, economic warfare and military warfare. Get out of here with that nonsense. I'm not sure about the female soccer players. I'm not sure about that. I don't have an answer on that. I really don't. Look, guys, I'm not going to pretend like Iranian regime is a perfect, it's all beautiful and flowers. No, it's not. It is a repressive regime. It is an authoritarian regime. But guess what? Who is defending Iran right now? They are. There's literally nobody defending Iranian soil than the current regime. So based on that alone, I support the regime right now until Iran can get through this mess. And in the future, they can have an election and have a different kind of a system. But right now, if Iranian regime right now collapses, Iran is done for forever. Mark my words. If the Iranian regime collapses, they're going to turn to a failed state. They're going to divide. They're going to give some territory to the Kurds. They're going to give some territory to the Azeris, Azerbaijan. They're going to split the country up and destroy it. We cannot allow that to happen, guys. We have to expose the West as much as we can, okay? All right, let me continue reading the comments. Eliminate the nuclear threat, control the flow of oil, control the Middle East. There is no nuclear threat, okay? Iran does not pose a nuclear threat, okay? Yes, control the oil, definitely. Control the energy, that's definitely true. Because they want, like I said, they want to create a blockade to block China from getting any more energy from the Middle East. So, for sure, that's part of the strategy. I mean, the main goal is China, guys. Don't forget, the main goal is China, okay? And this is not some silly war that Netanyahu tricked Trump into. That's not how the world works, guys. If you guys want to know how the world really works when it comes to war, you got to check out a channel called The New Atlas by Brian Berletic. I learned a lot from him in the last few months. Brian Berletic, his channel is called The New Atlas. He explains in vivid detail that the U.S. empire is in charge. Nobody's pulling the strings. Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, they don't make any decisions when it comes to broader political strategy. The U.S. tells them what to do, okay? And the last thing the U.S. wants is for people to realize this. They want you to think that Israel's in charge. They want you to think that Ukraine's pulling the strings on Biden and tricking Trump. They want you to think that the AIPAC lobby controls the whole U.S. That's not the way it works, guys. The amount of money AIPAC spends on U.S. politicians is, last time I checked, is like $50, $60 in like 10 years' time. The amount of money that the weapons defense contractors, oil companies, tech companies, pharmaceutical companies give to the U.S. government is like weapons manufacturer alone in 2024 gave $500 million in lobbying. You want to tell me the AIPAC lobby has more power than the weapons manufacturers? No. So they have a lot to benefit from having constant war, because they don't give a shit about Israel or anybody. They're like, We just want to sell our weapons. We want to maintain U.S. hegemony. The leaders, the heads of U.S. corporations, they have one goal in mind, all of them together. They work together to maintain American hegemony because there are a bunch of white supremacists who hate the idea of having a non-white nation like China rising up. That's literally how they think. These are not healthy people. These are psychopaths, okay? They're not like you and I. These are psychopaths, okay? They're willing to destroy the world to stay on top. Just get that, just make sure you understand that. All right, let's continue the comments. Okay, whatever you want to call me, it's nonsense. I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm a U.S. and Iranian citizen. Okay, so just please pipe down, relax. So what up? Let's see who else made comments. When our empire falls, we will see what's like to be a poorer country. Yes, the U.S. needs to be humbled. I hate to say this, man. The U.S. needs to be humbled. We're very arrogant empire, very brutal, and yeah. All right, you'll be right there with us then, Brandon. Okay, I'm not a liberal. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a socialist. So any label you attach to me will never work because I'm none of those things. Okay, so good try. And yeah, nice job calling me a terrorist. Yeah, shows where your mentality comes from. Okay, so let's see what else, guys. We don't need to destroy anything. We are on top. No, United States is not on top. China's on top already. Okay. God bless the Iranian people. Thank you. Okay, so let's continue. Now, that was the last comment I read. So, Iran, I think ultimately Iran's going to win this war. It's not my opinion. I've listened to the advice of many, dozens of military strategists, military experts like Scott Ritter, Colonel Wilkerson, Larry, I forgot his name, Larry something, I forgot his name, Brian Berletic, General Douglas McGregor, Douglas McGregor. A lot of military experts are saying this is a very horrible idea to go to war with Iran, but the U.S. empire thinks it can win. I guess so. I don't know. I feel like it's a desperate act to maintain dominance, and in the end, it's not going to work. Because, like I said, to win war, you have to collapse the regime. You need boots on the ground. Good luck with the idea of boots on the ground. It's never going to work. Okay, so I think this war is going to go on for a little bit longer. I'm not sure how long it's going to go, but I think in the end, Iran will survive. Iran will transform into a regional power. Let's hope. And I think the Gulf states are going to shift their tune, slowly start to realize that it does not benefit them to work with the U.S. or with Israel. It's going to benefit them to cooperate with the other countries in the Middle East, cooperate with Turkey, cooperate with Iran, get a little bit further away from Israel and the United States. So that's kind of those are the goals. Right? U.S. and Israel want to destroy Iran. They want a failed state. They want to collapse the government. Iran wants to survive, set the new bargaining terms. Iran wants to remove sanctions. It wants to basically thrive economically. I mean, that's just all it's trying to do. It's trying to survive, and resist. I mean, one big reason why the United States hates Iran is because of the fact that the new government that came into power in 1979 was strictly very much anti-imperial. It was anti-colonialism, and it was always about liberating oppressed people. That's why it was very pro-Palestine from the moment that it was founded, the Islamic Republic. Because the Islamic Republic, guys, you got to understand, a big portion of its ideology is based on Shia Islam. I'm not Muslim, but Shia Islam is all about fighting for the weak, fighting for the oppressed. So it's the story of Ashura, the story of the Prophet Hussein, who basically died in the desert with his followers when they were largely outnumbered. That's where Ramadan comes from, the suffering that he went through to fight against the tyrant of that time. It was like 650 BC, and he died, So Shia Islam is founded upon the idea of fighting for oppressed people. So that's why the mentality of Iranian people is very strong. You're not gonna be able to bomb them to giving up. No, they're not gonna give up by being bombed. Definitely not. Because in their mind, the harder it gets, the more they fight. the more they dig down their feet and they stand on their 2 toes and they decide to keep fighting back. So, but I mean, you know, it's a very, very, very devastating situation because Iran is being bombed. I mean, it's being brutalized. I mean, so many people are going to be killed, unfortunately. That breaks my heart. But I mean, they're paying the price to defend the world from U.S. empire, at least defend the Middle East, you know, from the Epstein class, from the pedophile, rapists, sadists who govern our world, you know. All right, let me look at some of the comments, guys. Okay, so guys, so you guys let me know where do you think I'm incorrect so far with my analysis? Like I see a lot of haters. They're just like, oh, you're dumb, you're stupid, you're ignorant, you're this, you're a terrorist. Okay, like, can you present me some kind of like a feasible argument as to why I'm wrong? Like, you're just gonna keep attacking me and call me names and labels? I'm sorry, you're not really proving anything. You're not proving anything to me. You're actually proving my point about Western arrogance, about the arrogance of the United States, you know, and how much they think that everybody else is below them, you know? So you're proving my point about your ignorance if you keep attacking me. If you think I'm wrong, tell me how I'm wrong. Is Israel being pounded or not? Israel's being destroyed. Is the Strait of Hormuz under the control of the United States? No, it's still under the control of Iran. Has the government of Iran collapsed? No. It's actually the people have gone in the street more in support now. So they turn the people more in favor of their government by bombing them. So I'm right on that as well. Who has suffered more economic damage when it comes to military hardware? Not about economics, about civilian, but military infrastructure damage. The U.S. has literally, this war is costing the United States $11,000 a second. This is an unsustainable reality, guys, okay? So, hey, I didn't, you know, don't say I didn't warn you ahead of time when the U.S. loses in the end. When the U.S. loses, I warned you. I told you so, okay? So, you know, you can come back here and apologize for cursing me out and launching insults at me. All right, let's see what else we got to say. Iran military is no better than Canada's. Iran, as we know, is gone. The people want this. The people do not want that, okay? The people do not want to be bombed. I'm sorry, they don't want to be bombed, okay? And you don't represent Iranian people. The best way to know what happens with Iran is what's happening with the people inside of Iran. What are they saying? And they're largely in support of peace and ending the war. They're largely against the United States empire, okay? So stop with the nonsense, with the constant misconstruing of the facts, okay? Iran, okay, so let's see. Shia and Sunni, we're brothers. They should be, you know, they should be brothers. We should join together to repel U.S. imperialism, of course. Okay. Okay, guys, let's see. The dollar is still strong. The dollar is still the world's reserve currency, but the dollar is weakening in power, guys. The dollar is losing its power slowly. I mean, actually quite rapidly nowadays, you know? So there's going to come a day where the dollar is no longer the reserve currency, and that's going to be a massive wake-up call for Americans, okay? Americans have no idea what it's like to live like the rest of the world. They don't know what it's like to be hit with economic pain like the rest of the world. They don't know what it's like to be oppressed and fought back against like the rest of the world. All these things are going to come to fruition with this war because the U.S. economy is already taking a hit. Gas prices went up 40 cents across the country last week. With Trump coming out and releasing these stupid posts about, oh, Iran's done, you know, the war is going to be wrapped up and all that, he boosts confidence in the market, so the price stabilized a little bit. But Iran is promising that we're going to raise the price back up to above $150 a barrel, okay? So I'm pretty confident. You can come back here to tell me that I was right. I'm pretty confident that U.S. is not going to be able to win this war because Iran's going to survive. Iran's going to survive. Even though it'll be devastated, it will survive to live another day. And the U.S. military bases, U.S. military bases are destroyed, guys. It's already suffered hundreds of billions of dollars of damage, okay? I hope you know that. So I think this war has already changed the entire structure of the Middle East in a very, very profound way. Iran's, I mean, guys, military historians of the future are going to look back at what's happening right now. This will go down in history as one of the most brilliant, incredible military campaigns ever waged by any country ever, all time, because of what Iran's doing. Iran, largely outnumbered, surrounded by hostile states, hit with economic sanctions for decades, starved, brutalized, bombed by the most powerful military in the world, and yet has done just unbelievable amounts of infrastructure damage to the tune of billions of dollars to the United States empire in the very first week. So you cannot discount that. That's actually incredible achievements, okay? And whereas the United States, where the US and Israel are just killing civilians, Iran's actually achieving its military strategic objectives. It's actually landing missiles on targets, okay, on real targets, legitimate targets, not women and children, like how Iran's doing. And by the way, how US is doing. And by the way, if Iran decides to switch it up and kill more civilians like it's doing now, well, that's because, like, I mean, who do we have to blame for that? Israel committed a genocide in Gaza. International law has been destroyed by the fact that Trump kidnapped President Maduro of Venezuela. U.S. is right now starving Cuba. There is no more international, guys, there's no more international law, okay? We are run by the Epstein class that does not give a shit about human sanctity, does not give a shit about human life, okay? It's the Epstein class, guys. They rape children at home and they bomb and kill children overseas. So there's... All right, let me look at the comments, guys. So, Iran can survive with a lot less. Their culture is built, yeah, of course, the culture, like I said, is built on, at least the current culture is built on Shia suffering, in embracing the grind, embracing suffering, man. That's what it's about. You know, they're not going to lose like that. Okay, Mr. Michael Conkin, how am I factually incorrect? Please tell me how I'm factually incorrect, other than insulting me. What am I factually incorrect about, based on what I've said? Everything I've said has been verified by not Iranian media, has been verified by Western media. So it's not my opinion, by the way. Okay? So thank you very much. Try again. Okay, let's see what the hotter the battle, the sweeter the victory. Iran has already lost. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Come on, man. Stop that rubbish. Blah, blah, blah. Been to USA. Yep. Battle is over. Is done. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it is a proxy. It is definitely a proxy war for sure. Okay. Trump and company are crazy. Yeah, I mean, it really is a crazy regime. I mean, my channel's called World Beyond Capitalism. Where do you think I stand? Do you think I'm left or right? You answer. You know, take a guess. Use your basic logic and tell me I'm against capitalism. So does that make me a leftist or a right winger by default? Where does that put me? Just take a guess, okay? All right, guys. Yeah, see, a lot of you guys, man, a lot of the haters, it just shows how simplistic your mind is, how simple-minded you are. You really don't understand war at all, do you? You don't understand war at all. Yeah, the U.S. is destroying tons of targets in Iran. Yes, U.S. is bombing oil facilities. killing children, bombing hospitals, bombing schools. Sure, great. And what exactly? You can bomb military, you can bomb civilian infrastructure, but the military and the regime is still there. And the people are gonna hate you more for bombing them. And they're gonna support their government obviously more. Because when you bomb a country, the people are gonna look at their government for security. There's no one else to look to. They're gonna look for the government, man. So, no, man, like, they're killing a lot. I mean, look, man, they're killing a lot of people in Iran, but like, Iran has a lot to go. Iran is strong, is still not fallen, and they've also said that they still have not released their best missiles on Israel. So they're like, Israel, just wait. Our best missiles are going to be released pretty soon. And if you guys pay attention at all to what's happening, Israel's getting hit every single day. So Israelis are living in a perpetual state of fear where they have to always run to their shelters several times a day. Iranians are much tougher. They live in a culture of resistance. They've lived under, they've been living under brutal sanctions, isolated from the diplomatic community, the world community. They've experienced 12-day war. They've experienced the Iraq war, which killed 1 million people in Iran. When Saddam Hussein invaded Iran, Saddam invaded Iran with the help of the West. He was getting intelligence and weapons assistance from the United States and from Germany. So Iran is no stranger to fighting uphill battles, okay? They fought an 8-year war against Iraq. For 8 years, they fought against Iraq. So don't tell me they're going to quit. They're going to quit in a few weeks against the U.S. It's not going to happen, guys. And if anybody thinks that bombing and killing civilians means that you're a tough, strong military, you are so wrong about that. That's not a professional. U.S. is not a professional military anymore, man. It's a bunch of. I mean, it's becoming like the IDF. It's becoming a TikTok dancers, They just have really good. I mean, yeah, they have really good technology. Don't get me wrong. They have the best weapons. They have the best. U.S. capacity for destruction is unrivaled across the world. Absolutely. But when you're trying to bomb, when you're fighting against an enemy that's waging asymmetric warfare against you. Oh, by the way, decentralized warfare, by the way. So killing a bunch of leaders and destroying the military command does not destroy the regime, because the regime, the government has split, and that was Khamenei's plan, by the way. The leader, the supreme leader, he basically laid out a plan to split up the country into 20 or 25 different provinces. Each province is a different node. Each province can fight against the United States on its own without any help for an entire year. So every province has strategic objectives of their own. They have mission plans of their own. They have their own stockpiles of munitions and weapons and drones and missiles. And they all work together to create a collective whole that comes together to defend the country. So like, even if you kill a bunch of leaders, doesn't change anything. Decentralized command works much better than centralized command. So for example, look at Venezuela, right? Venezuela took out the leader, took out Maduro, and then they threatened the vice president to listen to their demands. And look what happened. They stole the oil. They pretty much dominated Venezuela. Okay, Iran, you kill the supreme leader, but they have a very robust, decentralized system of governance that cannot be destroyed so easily. So, I mean, they designed that on purpose, right? To be able to fight off, because they know that, the U.S. and Israel are assassination factories, so they're going to have to find a way to protect themselves. And decentralization and asymmetric warfare are two powerful ways to defeat an enemy that has military advantage over you, okay? All right, guys, I'm going to read the rest of the comments. If you have any questions, ask me, then I'm going to finish the stream, okay? So let's see. Trump has done more since Bush. Yeah, I mean, the Trump regime has committed more war crimes in 1 year than any presidency in 4 years, if not several presidencies, I mean, the guy's a criminal. Worst human being of all time. What did Obama or Biden do? Obama and Biden, so like, okay, here's where I'm going to be honest with you, right? I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a freaking weak-ass liberal. Liberals are delusional. Obama and Biden paved the way for Trump, especially Obama. Because Obama, first of all, Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act, which was basically the Patriot Act on steroids, which allowed for the spying on U.S. citizens. Okay, Obama gave tremendous amount of money to Wall Street. He bailed the banks out, which literally created so much more economic inequality in America, which led to more right-wing extremism, which led to more scapegoatism, which led to more white nationalism, which led to Trump. So Obama helped tremendously lead to Trump. But just like every president is a war criminal. Obama was a war criminal. He did double the drone killings than Bush did. So Obama was no saint. He was a terrible, terrible president. And yeah, so Obama, Clinton, Biden, they didn't do enough, man. Biden committed a genocide in Gaza. I mean, and Trump made it even worse. So like, the Democrats are terrible, guys. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a liberal at all. I'm a scientific thinker. I'm not even a progressive. I consider myself a sustainability advocate, okay? I respect science. I believe that science and systems thinking and broader general, systems thinking and structuralism and, cybernetics and embracing scientific thinking and technology to solve problems is going to be the way of the future. Okay, we cannot rely on these outdated ideologies. We cannot rely on these outdated political ideologies anymore. They're not really doing anything. They don't solve. They're not solving our problems, guys. Okay. I don't have any negative, hostile views on anybody. I'm trying to educate people to realize that, listen, we all have so much more in common with each other than the Epstein class. The Epstein class are billionaires, which we are not. They're pedophiles, which we are not. They're war criminals, which we are not. They're thieves, which we are not. They're rapists. They're sex traffickers. They're fraudsters, which we are not. So we have a lot more in common with each other than with them. So why are you supporting a narrative and a status quo and a system that creates and supports the Epstein class? Why are you doing that? Why are you talking here? Why are you here talking crap to me when I'm your ally? I'm your friend. I'm your ally, man. We have a lot more in common with each other than with the Epstein class. So why are you protecting them? Why are you defending their status quo? Don't do that, man. You can do better. Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys. I got to wrap it up soon. You would not exist right now. Okay, thank you. I feel what you're saying. Iran is done. They have no nuclear. Yeah. Iran never posed a threat to the United States ever. Okay? Okay, dude is trying to propagandize to Americans, but he's only hit 23 of us, and probably half of us don't even like him. Okay, nobody likes me. Great. Thank you so much. Trump is going to test the nuclear weapons. I hope not. If he does that, it's a disaster for him, and it will not win the war. Dropping nukes on Iran will not win the war. Trust me on that. Oh, the very cliche, classic. If you don't like it, why don't you go back home? I'm sorry, I'm an American citizen and I'm an Iranian citizen too, and I actually love my life in America. So if I have any level of privilege, I'm using it to educate people and try to bring about a better reality. So telling me to go back home if I don't like it, why don't you become an actual citizen? Why don't you become an actual patriot to your country and start questioning the behavior and the policies of the government, which, as we know, is run by pedophile, sadists, and sex traffickers? Why don't you actually do that instead of telling me to go back home? I see a lot of very sad, racist supremacists in the comments here. A lot of bigotry and racism and hate and just disgusting language. And it makes me sad that you guys are so bitter and so you have so much hate inside of you. I wish you would be a little more just kind to yourselves, you know? This kind of violent language, it only hurts you. It doesn't hurt me. You're hurting yourself. You're destroying yourself with the way you're talking, you know? You can do better than that, man. You can do way better than this. You don't have to behave this way. Okay. Netanyahu's brother, yeah, I'm not sure if that's true or not. We have to wait for that to be confirmed. I don't watch barely any Iranian TV propaganda. I get my news from verified sources. I get my news from Breaking Points, from Ground News. I get it from, Brian Berletic, the New Atlas is an incredible channel. I get it from Scott Ritter. I get it from the Gray Zone. I have plenty of outlets that are not Iranian that I get my news from. So nice try. I'm not a propagandist for Iran. No, I'm just simply sharing information. That's all I'm doing. Okay? The $1.2 billion radar that the U.S. owned that got hit by a missile, that's not propaganda. That actually happened, okay? So the U.S. basically getting destroyed, that's happening. Israel getting hit by missiles, that's happening. The Strait of Hormuz is closed, that's happening. None of this is propaganda. I don't know how you can possibly have the audacity to say this is propaganda, but I'm stating fact. I'm not Muslim, I'm spiritual, but I do respect Islam. I respect spirituality, you know. I'm not Muslim, but I am spiritual. Yeah, I think there's definitely like, look, Epstein opened our eyes up to a very dark world. That's not just Epstein, okay? The reason why I call the Epstein class is not just Epstein. It's just this. Epstein represents the image of that group of people who do nefarious dealings behind the scenes. I mean, look, it's not just sex trafficking, okay? There's a tremendous amount of decision making and policy and banking policy and war policy that's happening behind the scenes between powerful people, okay? And that's a totally undemocratic process, okay? Oh, which reminded me, I should not forget to put in my video about the Princeton study that showed that the preferences of the American citizen are basically zero. There's 0% chance of being actually fulfilled because the U.S. is a corporatocracy that's owned and bought and paid for by the corporations and the banks. It's not a democracy, okay? All right. Okay, guys, let's finish the video, but I'm gonna wrap it up. You asked me, what do I know about Epstein? Well, why don't you stick around until next week where I post my video called The Epstein War, and you'll find out what I do know about Epstein. But just let me say it briefly. There's enormous, undeniable evidence that Epstein was a CIA and Mossad asset. He had deep ties to Israel. He was an advisor behind the scenes via emails that have leaked. He had a close relationship with Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel. He hung out with him numerous times. Virginia Dufresne said that Ehud Barak raped her, you know, and Epstein was the one who hooked them up. Epstein has deep ties to Israel. His partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, her father, Robert Maxwell, was a Mossad agent. He got buried with the highest honors in Israel, her father. So, I mean, the connections to Israel are so deep. It cannot be denied. Now, Israel being a U.S. puppet, Israel being a proxy of the U.S. empire, I think is a joint relationship between the Mossad and the United States deep state to create this honeypot operation to lure powerful people to do the bidding of the U.S. empire and Israel's bidding, okay? So the whole entire Epstein conspiracy, the Epstein phenomena, was a honeypot operation to lure powerful people and catch them in very compromising positions to blackmail them, to have them do things that favor U.S. imperial hegemony. Okay, so that's a big part of the Epstein conspiracy. All right. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's stream. I hope it was informative for you. The stuff I told you about the war aspects are very legitimate. Okay, so like I said, let me just briefly recap all the stuff I said. I predict Iran's going to be, it's going to be devastated from this war, but it will survive. The Islamic Republic will survive this war. They'll continue to govern Iran. Israel is going to be in a lot of trouble. If they survive this war, Israel is going to be in tremendous diplomatic isolation and political isolation as time moves forward. The whole world hates them, okay? Majority of the world views Iran as the hero fighting back against Western imperialism, okay? And I'm sorry, South Korea, US, and Israel and Europe are not the whole world. They're a very small percent of the world. Majority of the world's population, they know what's happening. They know what's going on. They know the hypocrisy and the violence of the U.S. empire. So they side with Iran. Iran has every right to defend themselves. Iran has not attacked anybody, has not invaded a country in 300 years. So Iran has every right to defend itself, man. All right, guys, have a blessed day. Enjoy your time. Peace out. Much love. I'll talk to you guys soon. And hey, all the haters, I love you too. I love you too. Thank you for hating. Thank you for trolling, ridiculing, insulting me. It's all good. I can only hope for the people of Iran can survive, man. My heart just breaks for the people of Iran. You know, it's very difficult what's happening to them. To see all that, you know, the little park the park I used to go to as a kid in Iran was bombed, destroyed. You know, I have so many memories. Some of the best times of my life was growing up in Iran, going to school there. So it's just sad what's happening to the country, really, you know. And then I got a bunch of racist bigots here who are just saying a bunch of crap to me. You have no idea who I am and what I live for, what I do in my personal life. You don't know who I am, and I don't know who you are. But I'm not the one insulting you. I'm not the one, you know, cursing you out. You know. Last thing, guys. Look, if we want to make the world a better place, we cannot take sides anymore. In the end, literally, like ultimately, we gotta ditch the idea of taking sides. There's only one family. There's only one group, the human family. And so we have to fight for a world and a system and a society that makes sure everybody does well. Because any system that favors one class over another, like the Epstein class, is gonna always create war. War is a mathematical guarantee and a byproduct of a system that's based on exploitation and the preservation of artificial scarcity, competition, and infinite growth. Infinite growth, competition, and self-preservation favor the Epstein class. They do not favor you and I. So that's my final statement. Much love to all you guys. Talk to you guys soon, all right? I'll see you guys soon. Peace. Bye.